1944. By January, we'd seen some heavy fighting and we were positioned in the village of Lauro. Along with 4 others, I had to take fresh batteries weighing 50 pounds and a radio set to our OP at the top of Mount Dimiano. We had to negotiate a slope, terraced for the olive trees. Crump, crump, crump. Mortars, we hit the ground. Crump, crump, crump. They stop. Why? Can they see us? We get up and go on. Crump, crump, crump. He can see us. We hit the deck. A rain of them falling around us. I cling to the ground. I'll have a fag, that's what. I'm holding a packet of woodbines. Then there's a noise like thunder. It's right on my head. There's a high-pitched whistle in my ears. At first, I black out, and then I see red. I'm strangely dazed. I was on my front, now I'm on my back. The red was opening my eyes straight into the sun. I know if we stay here, we'll all die. I start to scramble down the hill. Next, I was at the bottom of the mountain. Next, I'm speaking to Major Jenkins. I'm crying. I don't know why. He's saying, "Get that wound dressed." I said, "What wound?" I'd been hit on the right-hand side of my leg. In a forward dressing station, I'm given sweet tea, 2 small white pills, and a sticking plaster is put on the wound. I start to sway and am put on a stretcher. On a Red Cross truck, we pass our artillery lines. I jump at each explosion. I was labelled battle fatigue at 144 CCS and sent to see a psychiatrist. He told me that I was going to get better. But a week later, I was back with the battery. How I got back, I don't know. This was a time of my life that I was very demoralized. I was not really me anymore. I jumped every time that our guns fired. I started stammering. To add to my misery, I was court-martialed by the major. Owing to my unreliable conduct, I was to relinquish my stripe. Well, I suppose in World War I, the bastard would have had me shot. Well, he'd had it in for me for a long time. Well, I'd been a morale booster for the boys, organising dances and concerts, always trying to keep a happy atmosphere, something he couldn't do. All this despite the fact that the discharge certificate from the 144 CCS stated, "This man must be rested behind the lines for a period to stable his condition." I took the tranquilizers that they had given me. All they did was turn me into a zombie.
Death Wish, written 1944 in Italy. Bury me anywhere, somewhere near a tree, some place where a horse will graze and gallop over me. Bury me somewhere near a stream. When she floods her banks, I'll give her thanks for reaching out to me. So bury me in my childhood scene, but please don't burn me in Golders Green.
Spike's wartime memoirs provoked strong reactions. Here is Spike's response to a particular reader's complaint about his book, Monty.
Dear Stephen, questions, questions, questions. If you are so disappointed in my book, Monty, so am I. I might be more disappointed than you because I spent a year collecting material for it and it was a choice of having it made into a book or a suit. There are lots of one-liners in the book, but then when the German army are throwing bloody great lumps of hot iron at you, one only has time for one-liners. In fact, the book should really consist of the following. Oh, fuck.
Spike's battles with authorities started in wartime and spilled over into peacetime as he continued to rage at the BBC. Here's a typical example of his spats with the management. From Spike Milligan to Charles Curran, BBC Director General, 21st of May, 1975.
Dear Sir Charles, the BBC programme Let's Join In want to do a fairy tale of mine, and in it they want to excise the word God. They say its policy principle does not allow the mingling of fact and fiction. Anyhow, I cannot contribute to such stupidity, and I have refused to allow the word God to be cut out. I am writing to you because I thought you might change this silly rule. I hope you are well, Charles, and all goes well for you and your wife and your horse. Love, light and peace, Spike Milligan.
Charles Curran replied to Spike Milligan on the 5th of June, 1975.
Dear Spike, Let's Join In is a schools programme intended for infants, and the producer wanted to avoid conveying the impression to them that God existed on the same level of reality as goblins, witches and giants. Neither you nor I believe that. There is no policy against mingling fact and fiction, only in this instance a wish not to confirm some children's belief that God and his powers belong to the world of magic. As a believer, I think you'll recognise that this is a serious point, and I do hope that you will reconsider your decision not to allow the broadcast to take place. Yours ever, Charles Curran.
Part 2, God versus the Goblins. My dear Charles, I believe in goblins and God. I think the combination is absolutely marvellous. Of course, I'd like to get it very clear that all my goblins are Roman Catholics. That is why when you go into confession, if you look on the floor, you will find a long, thin ladder leading up to the confessional window. I refuse to give in, Charles, but I am sure God will forgive you for not believing in goblins. I must go now. There is a fairy tapping on my window pane. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I think it's a Protestant, so I won't open it. Love, light and peace. P.S. I will give in, but only because you are all so unenlightened. I will allow the word God to be stricken from the record. But don't forget, Charles, on the great day when God says, "Who told you to remove my name from that story?" You know who I will be pointing at.
May I clarify? In that bucket is my plaintiff, Harry Seacombe.
All of him?
Yes.
What's he doing?
Nothing. He's lying quietly in the bottom. May I elucidate?
If you must, but I must warn you it can cause blindness.
Thank you. My lord, on the 1st of April, which is by way of being a Jewish holiday in Morecambe and Wise, my client attended Steam Dick's Turkish bath. There he was shown to a chamber, stripped, and left to steam.
To steam?
Steam, Your Honor.
You're not going to tell me a tree fell on him.
No, my lord, something far worse. Something far worse. A faulty valve forced the heat in his chamber to rise to some 800 degrees centigrade. The melting point of the human body.
Good Lord.
An assistant rushed in, but alas, too late. Mr. Seacombe now lay in a puddle on the floor. The assistant, being a sensitive man, mopped him up with a sponge and wrung him out into a bucket. That bucket.
Silence, I will not have under-rehearsed mumbling in this court. Can we see Mr. Seacombe?
Constable, will you pour out the plaintiff?
And you are suing for negligence.
No, we're not suing for negligence. We're suing for short measure, my lord.
Not all Spike's letters were complaining. This is what he wrote to Cleo Lane. Dear Cleo, you were fantastic last night. I was going to send you champagne, but after the way you sparkled it was pointless. Love, light and peace. P.S. It was also expensive. P.P.S. My regards to that man who conducts the band for you. Ladies and gentlemen, the John Dankworth Quintet and Dame Cleo Lane.